Right, Zyrathenia. Obviously, we're down to the last 4 teams. Let's just start at the top, right? And the top detail has to be this. There was a not very nuanced discussion that took place in the community, mainly because we're talking about Reddit and Twitter, which, let's be real, they're just hot take machines, and they're not really about like putting a massive paragraph or long thing. It's kind of like, 2-sentence hot takes. So the 2-sentence hot take for the world so far goes like this. Oh, what happened to LPL? Oh, such a shame. Oh, I thought you guys said it was good. Then it's obviously all the smug people who like LCK going, LCK is back, baby, Korean Kingdom. And then if you're a real douche, I even do this sometimes just to trigger people, you go, and besides, even the LPL team is carried by 2 Koreans. And then basically you've just made it like Korean supremacy. We're back, baby. So here's the question, right, Zyrathenia. Last year, the storyline went like this. Yes, Damwon is the best team. And in fact, because they won the tournament, they are the best in the world. But just like I always tried to temper LEC fans, like, listen, just because G2's sick does not mean LEC is as sick as G2. So don't talk shit on Koreans, for example, when they will be all the teams from Europe except G2. In the same sense, right, I was always trying to be like, look, Damwon's the best, but is LCK that good as a region? Right, since LCK has 3 out of the 4 teams in this particular semi-finals, it's a fair question to ask. Does this imply LCK is the best region? Has LCK been the best region at Worlds? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I say it's a very hard question. So in that case, I think that it's empirically easy to say that LCK, at least this year, has been performing much better than the other regions. And I think that one of the key reason for that, is that I always how do you call the thing that's at the at the ahead of the train that's like just pulling the rest of the train,
whatever, the cab or something, or whatever the first train is called, yeah.
Exactly. It's like we had G2 for Europe. I think that Damwon is playing this role for the LCK. I think that when you have a team that you can look up to, not every single team in LCK is going to scream Damwon on a regular basis, but you're not good enough, you can't beat Damwon. So the same way, if you look at, for instance, 2015, Fnatic was really good. You remember it was the 18-0 Fnatic.
Yes.
Look at how Origin performed. They were in Challenger Series, trying to get to the up and downs, and they went up to the EU LCS for the summer. And just by screaming a lot, and you can ask the players from the team, right? They did 9 blocks and stuff against Fnatic to actually catch up, and they ended up being semi-finalists as well of Worlds that year. So I think that when you have a really good team to scream against, that helps a lot. And I think that not only they have a new generation of player, but I think that on top of that, they can proof test their ability to play the game. Whereas I think that, as I said in a previous podcast, I think that in Europe, the team that plays the best is Mad, but we see that even in Mad's play style, there are a lot of holes, whether it's individually or collectively, and they still get away with it, right? Mad has no one to scream against in their vicinity where they can actually proof test their ability to play the game. So they got surprised by Damwon, where Damwon wasn't surprised by Mad. And I don't think that Europe is like way worse. I don't think NA is way worse. I just feel like they're going to need one super team per region to actually teach the rest of the region how to play. And there hasn't been this year, because I think that G2 is at an end of an era and they have to move to the next one. No team has taken that spot in Europe. So the best second team from the previous G2 is Mad Lions, and it's clear that this year that Mad Lions is not the best team in Europe, but they haven't been good enough to actually and there's no team that can compete against them. Like Fnatic had hold in their game, and we were speaking about it right during the playoffs. Rogue was the same, Misfits was the same, G2 was the same. So NA is NA. I think they've been performing very well for what they have, and I'm pretty happy with their performance. For the LPL though, I think it's very hard to understand, but I feel like there are going to be years where the game just doesn't fit LPL teams, and that's it. And I feel like this year is not one of them. I feel like LPL is very patch dependent, and when the patch fits one of their team and they can play, like when it was only team fight, IG won. When it was only push mid and roam, FPX won. But if you look overall at LPL performances, if the patch doesn't fit them, it's a very tactic era with a lot of like macro, they seem to struggle a little bit. But I don't think like they're bad. Their players are absolutely insane at the game. It's just the playstyle fits more Koreans at this year. And maybe next year, because of the variants and all the shutdowns, bloody team fights is just going to happen again. And now LPL is going to be back. But it comes down to a little bit of luck in how well you perform at World Championship.
Yes, I actually thought something quite similar, which is like, this is one of the areas, by the way, where I feel like that big picture, you would call it in English, like high resolution way of looking at the space. So basically you're looking as though you're like above and you're looking down at a tiny little map and, a mountain is just a circle. It's not like all the detail of it. If you're looking overall at the regions, right, people also do that thing, dude, where they don't bother even asking, how did the game change? How was like Riot's influence on what's going on? Because I agree with exactly what you're saying. Like, if you go and look when IG won Worlds, if they don't make that particular meta for Worlds that changes it from a bot lane meta to a solo lane meta, IG probably doesn't win. If you don't take the tracker's knife out, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, Ning was a good jungler. He wasn't some fucking god tier Korean like Score who's just tracking everyone all over the map. I also think IG probably doesn't win. Like, these things change the game. So if you look when the LPL won, they did win when it was more about like fighting. I would say even like in some sense, not like individual strength, like one player carries the game, but like if you have a whole bunch of players who are really skilled in fighting, you will have these great skirmishes, great fighting. Even FPX, it's like essentially they just found the best way to play the meta. I'll even say this against G2. They weren't even that impressive against some of the other teams, but against G2 they had a fantastic way to play the game that G2 either A couldn't figure out or B didn't have the counter for in that final. So I will say, if you look at this particular time period, this is why that whole thing of like Koreans just got worse. It's like, no, some of the sort of win conditions and the things that the game is selecting for to be the best at changed, and Koreans, listen, just like many other regions, have their own strengths. And I think for a few years, they stayed in those strengths and they didn't really try to experiment. Now, I do think if you look at the Damwon lineups, if I could take them back in time to season 9, these lineups from last year and this year, they'd also, by the way, probably be able to mix it up in some of those mid-game fights and look pretty cool too. But I think you look at the metas that we've had last year and this year, they have been more suited to the LCK teams. And particularly, I saw this from FPX, dude. Like, I don't think it's just that FPX was like all players. Because that's the thing. If you notice, the LPL people are pretty much saying every player in FPX underperformed. Like, okay, maybe, but that's very rare that ever happens. I also thought when you looked at it, dude, they were doing weird moves. Like, sometimes they would just go to the side lane at a time where it's like, couldn't you all like push mid now or something, or gone for an objective? Like, it even seemed like their read on the meta was off. So what would you say it is that LCK, and maybe the best LCK teams, because obviously they're in the semi-finals now, what if they kind of read the best about either the meta champion-wise or stylistically? What do you think's made them strong in this particular time period?
I think there are two key factors. The one that makes LCK stronger as a region, and one that makes Damwon better as a team. The first one is just when they are looking for what's good on the patch, they have the most competitive not only solo queue system, but scouting system.
Yes.
So most of the top players on the ladder are already placed in the academies, right? So people can reach out to pretty much any OTP on the server or very high solo queue player. And it's like, what's the current flavor, this week on this patch? And they can just figure out the Yumis, the Talon jungle, all these things came from Korea, right?
Yes.
When you look at the very first games when Worlds started at group stage, the Chinese teams were playing Jarvan, Kai'Sa, Nautilus, like just press or combos, because it is what they thought was good on the Chinese super server. But when they moved and they played in Europe in solo queue, they can't really read because the EU solo queue is not Korean solo queue. I don't think it's comparable. So Koreans have direct information on what's trending and what's best because they have the best player playing. Like, you think like players such as like Dopa, I don't think he's playing anymore, but all the Korean mids that stayed home, they kept playing. They can, like, someone like Chowmaker can just go on the server and just check on like what's the highest win rate balance. So they have an edge in that sense, and I think that's a huge edge in terms of reading the meta fast because they have just more players playing at a high level and the games are more competitive. What makes Damwon better, on the other hand, is I think that Damwon used to lose to European teams, right? They lose to G2. They wanted the revenge. They got it last year. But it's not a team that got built in a day. Like, people tend to forget that. But I think that what the players from Damwon understood is you can't win a game just with macro. You need to use the macro to get a positional advantage and execute the positional advantage.
Right.
Damwon is the team on the planet that has the best understanding of positional, like real strategy. What strategy stands for. Like, you're playing, I don't know, Cossacks all games, on PC or Age of Empires. Like, you have a heal and you have archers, and the game, like, they use field and terrain up to their advantage, and they can execute that, right? Most of the teams, when you speak about macro with EU NA people, right, in general, whether it's player, coaches, analysts, they're just like, oh yeah, sure, like, then you're first on the objective, so you're gonna get the objective. no, you're just not gonna get it because you're first. You're gonna get it because you need to be first, because you have a composition that requires to be first, and how you're gonna abuse the fact that you're first to execute your fight. That one was exactly. And if you look at the game 2 against Mad Lions, I've been reviewing it on the side on my channel, and just Damwon is executing a fight so well that one small mistake of understanding the position, from like in chess, you just move a pawn and suddenly the evaluation is like straight losing. You can't do anything anymore. Exactly what happened. They came back on Baron. It was over. It was chessmate, and they knew it. So I think that the combination of having a locomotive, right, a best team in LCK that has already the best solo queue, plus a team that understands the game at a higher level than what's older LCK teams used to do, creates a very, very good combo, right? It's a very good field to grow for a region. Nobody has something like this in any region.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.